While I was recovering from a car accident, my 8-year-old daughter went skiing with my wife and in-laws. She called crying, "Daddy, they left me on the mountain." Then the line went dead. When I called my wife, she laughed. "She's your problem, not mine." Hours later, ski patrol found something under the ice. What they told me made my blood freeze. I woke up to the sound of screaming wind and my daughter's voicemail on repeat. "Daddy, I can't find Mommy. It's dark. Please come." Her voice was small, broken by the wind, the kind of sound that burns into your brain and never leaves. It was 11:43 p.m. I was stuck in a hospital bed 200 miles away, a steel brace holding my spine in place, every movement sending lightning down my ribs. They told me to rest. They told me she was safe, but she wasn't. The storm outside my window hit like a freight train, snow swallowing the Denver skyline. On the TV, local news warned of record-breaking whiteout conditions across Summit County, the exact place my wife had taken our 8-year-old daughter for a family weekend. I hit redial for the 15th time, straight to voicemail. "Come on, Leah," I muttered. "Pick up, please." I called my wife next. "Erin?" I rasped when she answered, her voice muffled by laughter in the background. "Where's Maya?" A pause. Then the music behind her got louder. "Relax, Daniel. She's fine." "She's not fine. She just called me crying. She said she's alone on the ridge." "Stop being dramatic." Erin sighed like I'd asked her to pick up dry cleaning. "You're always like this, Dan. You think everything's a crisis." She probably wandered a little too far. "My dad and brother are already looking. It's -10 degrees out there." Then she'll learn to follow directions next time. That was when I knew something wasn't just wrong. Something was evil. Before I could answer, the line went dead. I called back, straight to voicemail. Again. My body wouldn't let me get up. Not without the brace, not without the painkillers, but I tried anyway. I fell twice before I even reached the door. At 12:06 a.m., a new voicemail came through. The sound of wind, footsteps crunching snow, and my daughter whispering, "Daddy, they left me." Mommy said this was a game. Then nothing. I think I screamed. I don't remember. I just remember the nurse bursting into my room. The IVs yanked out of my arm, blood dripping onto the tile. I remember grabbing the phone and calling every number I knew. The police wouldn't deploy a search team until dawn. The ski patrol said the same. By the time the sun rose, my daughter was gone. And 3 days later, when they found her, frozen in a drainage basin under 6 feet of ice, my wife was already in Aspen, smiling for photographs at her father's foundation gala. They said it was a tragic accident. But I knew better, because 2 hours before she died, Maya had sent me a photo from her phone. A blurry shot of her mother's SUV headlights driving away, license plate glowing through the snow. And behind the wheel wasn't Erin. It was her brother. Before everything shattered, we were the picture of a quiet, upper-middle-class family. Daniel Hayes, 36, mechanical engineer at a wind energy firm. Erin Caldwell Hayes, 33, daughter of the man who owned half the construction contracts in Colorado. And Maya, 8 years old, all freckles and dimples, the kind of kid who could make a whole room softer just by walking in. I met Erin in college. She was confident, magnetic, the kind of woman who could turn a lecture hall into a spotlight. I didn't know back then that the confidence was rehearsed, a learned performance from years of watching her father manipulate boardrooms. Her family had money that didn't come from clean places. The Caldwells were the kind of dynasty that turned mountain towns into luxury prisons. Erin's father, Warren Caldwell, had built an empire off cheap land deals and political favors. The governor golfed with him. The police chief owed him a lake house. Everyone either feared him or worked for him. When Erin and I got engaged, Warren told me, "You'll never be one of us, Daniel. But if you make my daughter happy, I'll tolerate you." He said it like he was granting parole. Still, the first few years were good. We lived in Boulder, small house, quiet life. Erin said she liked the normalcy, that she wanted Maya to grow up with both parents actually around. But when Warren's company started bleeding money from a failed resort project, Erin changed. She became restless, distracted, and then cold. Started small. Missed dinners. Weekend charity retreats that somehow lasted 4 days. When I asked who she was with, she'd laugh like I'd accused her of murder. Then she began telling Maya not to cling to Daddy so much. Maya would crawl into my workshop anyway, building little cardboard models next to me, always wanting to help. Once, she drew a picture of 3 stick figures holding hands under a big sun. She labeled them Mommy, Daddy, Me. Erin saw it on the fridge and tore it down. "That's not what our family looks like anymore," she'd said. "I should have left then. I should have taken Maya and gone." But I thought Erin was just drowning under her father's control. I didn't realize she'd become him. The car crash happened last November. A delivery truck ran a red light, T-boned my car. 3 broken ribs, spinal bruising, 6 weeks off work. While I was in the hospital, Erin's visits became shorter until they stopped completely. Her father sent flowers, white lilies, the funeral kind. I tried not to think about what that meant. 2 weeks after I got home, she came into my room with a glass of wine and said, "Dad wants to take Maya to the lodge this weekend. Family time. You'll be fine here, right?" I asked to come. She smirked. "You can barely stand, Daniel. And honestly, Dad doesn't want the energy ruined by your situation." That word, situation, hung in the air like rot. That night, I overheard a conversation between Erin and her brother Derek in the kitchen. I only caught fragments through the vent. "He's too broken to fight. You just have to go through with it. Once it's done, everything's clean." When I asked her about it the next morning, she kissed my forehead and said, "Stop worrying, Dan. You'll make yourself crazy." 3 days later, Maya was dead. After the funeral, the Caldwells didn't even pretend to mourn. Warren gave a speech about life's unpredictable tragedies. Erin stood beside him in a black designer coat, dry-eyed, and Derek was on his phone the entire time. Every condolence felt like a knife. But the truth didn't show itself until I got Maya's phone back from evidence a week later. In her last recorded video, timestamped 10:42 p.m., she's crying, whispering into the camera. "Uncle Derek said Mommy told him to take me to the top. He said Daddy doesn't want me anymore. But I know he's lying." That's when I realized Erin hadn't just abandoned her. She'd arranged it. And the reason why would come out soon enough. Because when I checked the call logs, I saw one more number on Maya's phone. A call made at 10:45 p.m. to a contact saved as Lawrence C., Erin's father. I stopped sleeping after I saw that call log. The image of my daughter, trembling in the dark, whispering into that phone. It replayed every time I closed my eyes. For 3 days straight, I went through everything on her phone. Videos, texts, photos, anything that could tell me what happened in those final hours. There wasn't much. The Caldwells had money, lawyers, and enough influence to sweep the official investigation clean. Every document from the sheriff's office read the same: accidental exposure. No sign of foul play. They called it a tragedy. But I could hear the malice underneath their silence. I needed someone who wasn't in their pocket. That's when I called Marcus Hale, my oldest friend from the Army. He'd left the service to start a security consultancy. A fancy way of saying he knew how to find things people wanted hidden. Marcus showed up at my house 2 nights later. Big guy, shaved head. Same steady voice he used when we were pinned down in Afghanistan. "You look like hell," he said, taking in my living room. The half-drunk bottles, the crutches, the photos of Maya spread out across the table. "I need your help," I said. "Off the record." "Define off." "As in, if anyone finds out, we both go to prison." He looked at me for a long moment, then sat down. "Okay, start talking." I told him everything. Erin's coldness, the phone call, the voicemail, the video, the missing hours. When I finished, he was quiet. Then he said, "You're sure the call to her father wasn't just an accident? Pocket dial? Lawrence Caldwell doesn't answer calls he doesn't expect." Maya's call lasted 72 seconds. He nodded. "I'll dig." Over the next week, Marcus used contacts in law enforcement, surveillance tech, even a guy who hacked insurance companies for a living. What he found turned my stomach. At 10:41 p.m., 10 minutes before Maya's last voicemail, A security camera on the resort road captured a black Land Rover leaving the mountain. The license plate was traced to Caldwell Construction. The driver? Derek Caldwell. The passenger? Aaron. And there was something else. Marcus pulled up a blurred still frame, two silhouettes in the back seat. One was Aaron's father. The other was a man I didn't recognize. "Who's that?" I asked. "Name's Tyler Vaughn. Former project manager for Caldwell Developments. Went missing 3 years ago after blowing the whistle on illegal land acquisitions." Missing? Disappeared off the grid. Case got dropped after 2 weeks. I just stared at the screen. "You're telling me the guy sitting next to them is legally dead?" "Looks like it." Marcus leaned back. "This isn't just about Maya. Something bigger's going on." My guess? She saw something she wasn't supposed to. What could an 8-year-old possibly see? He turned the laptop toward me, showing a string of encrypted emails between Aaron and her father. The subject line on one caught my eye. "Asset relocation plan. Ridge property." Marcus clicked it open. The message had been partially deleted, but one line remained at the bottom. "The girl's presence compromises everything. Handle it before the inspection." My throat went dry. Inspection? Environmental agency. The resort was being investigated for burying toxic materials in the snowmelt zone. If it came out, Caldwell Construction would be finished. They must have used Maya's trip as a cover to move evidence or bodies. Couldn't breathe. "She wasn't a mistake," I said quietly. "She was a problem they needed to erase." Marcus put a hand on my shoulder. "You sure you want to keep going? Because if we do, you're not coming back from this." "I'm already gone." 2 nights later, we drove to the Caldwell Lodge, the same one where she died. The property was closed for maintenance, but Marcus had connections. He got us in. The place felt wrong. The air was heavy, silent, like it remembered. In the snow behind the lodge, we found a metal grate half buried under ice. A runoff drain that led downhill toward the creek where Maya's body was found. Inside, we found something worse. Under a tarp in the maintenance shed were 6 seal drums, each stamped with a black warning label. "Hazardous waste, not for transport." Marcus's voice was low. "Jesus, Dan, this isn't just murder. This is a cover-up worth millions." But I wasn't listening. I was staring at something else. A pink knit glove half frozen in the snow beside one of the barrels. Maya's. I fell to my knees. The rage that hit me then didn't feel human. That night, Marcus told me to rest. He said we'd hand everything to the feds. Let justice do its job. But justice doesn't care about fathers like me. And people like the Caldwells don't go to prison. So while Marcus slept, I made my own plan. And it started with a phone call to a woman named Raina Keller. The same woman who'd once worked for Warren Caldwell. Until he had her brother killed. Raina Keller showed up 2 days later in a battered blue Jeep, the kind of vehicle that looked like it had been through wars. She stepped out wearing a wool coat, dark hair in a braid, sharp eyes that flicked over my house like she was mapping it for exits. "Daniel Hayes," she said, her voice low and calm. "I almost didn't believe you'd call." I didn't bother shaking her hand. "Marcus said you might know things about the Caldwells." "I know more than I should." She glanced past me into the living room, where Maya's drawings still covered the walls. "You'd better tell me everything before I decide whether to help." So I did. I told her about the trip, the call, the voicemail, the video, all of it. When I was done, she was quiet for a long time, her expression unreadable. Then she said, "You don't need me to investigate, Daniel. You need me to destroy them." That sentence hit like a pulse of electricity. "What do you mean?" She walked over to the window, stared out at the street. "Warren Caldwell had my brother killed 5 years ago. His name was Adrian. He worked as a surveyor on one of Warren's resort projects near Breckenridge. Found evidence Caldwell's crews were dumping chemical waste into the groundwater. He tried to blow the whistle. 2 days later, he drove off a cliff. The autopsy said, accident. The brake lines said otherwise." Her voice didn't crack. Not once. "You think your daughter's death was an accident?" She continued. "It wasn't. Warren's been doing this for years. Anything or anyone that threatens his money disappears. Aaron knows. Derek does the dirty work. The cops and the DA get paid to look the other way. I stared at her. You're saying my daughter found out about their dumping operation? I'm saying she probably saw something she shouldn't have. And they used the storm as cover. I swallowed hard. Then help me prove it. Raina turned around. Her eyes softened just a fraction. Proof doesn't work with men like Warren. Pain does. Before I could respond, Marcus walked in from the kitchen. He'd been listening. Hold on, he said. You're not talking about murder, right? Raina's look was cold. You think the law's going to fix this? The same system they bought and built. Marcus shook his head. I didn't sign up for this kind of war. She ignored him. Daniel, I can get you everything you need. Addresses, security schedules, offshore accounts. But once you start this, there's no turning back. I didn't even hesitate. Then let's start. That night, Raina pulled out a hard drive. It contained data stolen from Caldwell Construction servers, emails, invoices, GPS logs. The deeper we dug, the more monstrous it became. There were ledgers tracking payoffs to local officials, ghost contracts worth millions, and lists of project cleanups. But one document froze me. It was labeled, Ridge Termination Plan, March 4th. The same weekend they'd taken Maya. Under participants, I saw 3 names. Derek Caldwell, Aaron Caldwell Hayes, W. Caldwell, and a 4th I didn't expect. Raina Keller. I stared at her. You were on this? Her face went pale. That can't be right. Marcus crossed his arms. Looks pretty official. Raina grabbed the laptop, scrolling furiously. I left that company years before your daughter died. I didn't. She stopped suddenly, her eyes widening. What? I demanded. She turned the screen toward us. Look at the signature line. The digital sign-off at the bottom wasn't hers. It was forged with her employee ID. But the metadata told a different story. The file had been created using her old credentials the same week she disappeared from Colorado. Marcus frowned. You said you quit voluntarily. What really happened, Raina? She closed the laptop, her jaw tight. I didn't quit. I ran. From what? She met my eyes. From Warren. He found out I'd been recording his calls. He sent someone after me. Someone I thought was dead. Who? I asked. Her answer was a whisper. My brother. The room went still. You said he was murdered, Marcus said quietly. He was. Raina's voice trembled now. But he didn't stay dead. Warren faked the crash, paid for reconstructive surgery, and turned him into his enforcer. He calls him Tyler Vaughn now. The name slammed into me like ice water. Tyler Vaughn, the man in the Land Rover. She nodded. Yeah, my brother. I felt the world tilt. He was there the night Maya died. Raina's eyes filled with tears for the first time. Then Warren's finally done it. He's using Adrian to clean up everything, including your daughter. I didn't say anything. My throat wouldn't work. Raina stepped closer. If you want revenge, Daniel, I'll help you. But you have to understand something. What? You won't just be going after the Caldwells. She looked away, voice breaking. You'll be going after my brother too. The next week was a blur of sleepless nights and whispered plans. The world outside kept moving, traffic, morning news, people buying coffee. But inside that house, time had gone rigid. Raina set up her equipment in my basement. Laptops, hard drives, encrypted comms, even a signal jammer she claimed she'd borrowed from a defense contractor. Marcus called it overkill. I called it insurance. This isn't revenge, Raina said one night, her voice steady as she typed lines of code that would have made an FBI tech sweat. It's reclamation. Warren Caldwell's entire empire runs on fear. If you make him afraid, really afraid, it all collapses. I watched her fingers move, the green glow of her screen reflecting off her face. And how do you make a man like him afraid? You don't hit him in the wallet, she said. You hit him where he hides his rot. Marcus paced behind us, restless. You're talking about infiltration. You realize how insane that sounds? The Caldwells have private security, cameras, motion sensors. You go near that lodge, they'll bury you next to your kid. I looked at him, I've already been buried once. He stopped pacing. Dan, no, Marcus. I'm done asking people for justice. I'm taking it. He didn't argue again. The plan came together piece by piece. Raina had blueprints of the Caldwell Lodge, the same one where they'd taken Maya. The estate was more fortress than home. Multiple wings, panic rooms, a private helipad. But she'd found something useful. An underground maintenance tunnel that connected the generator building to the wine cellar. It hadn't been on any of the official schematics. That's our way in, Raina said, pointing at the map. No cameras, no sensors, because it was built illegally. We use the storm next week as cover. What storm? Marcus asked. She clicked open a weather feed. Arctic front hitting the Rockies in 5 days. They'll all be at the lodge for Warren's 71st birthday. The same day your daughter died. The symmetry made my skin crawl. And yet, it felt right. Once we're in, she continued, we disable communications, cut the power and trap them inside. Make them face what they did. The walls will do the rest. Marcus frowned. And then what? You gonna kill them? Raina met his gaze. If we do it right, we won't have to. We'll make them confess. Marcus exhaled sharply. You think they'll just spill their guts because they're cold and scared? I looked at him. They won't be scared of the cold. They'll be scared of me. That shut him up. For the next several days, we prepped. I trained brutal physical therapy, strength drills, cold weather conditioning. Every ache, every scar was just a reminder that pain was temporary. Raina forged credentials, ghosted cell towers, hacked into Caldwell's security feeds. Marcus secured supplies, thermal gear, ropes, tranquilizers, unmarked vehicles. But as the storm drew closer, cracks began to show. I started noticing things about Raina. Her calls in the middle of the night. Her long absences. Once, I walked into the basement and caught her staring at a photo of Maya on my desk. When she realized I was there, she looked almost guilty. You okay? I asked. She nodded too quickly. Yeah, just thinking. About what? She hesitated. About how your daughter deserved better parents than any of us. It didn't sound like sympathy. It sounded like confession. That night, Marcus pulled me aside outside the house. The snow was falling thick, silent. She's hiding something, he said. You feel it too. She's been through hell, I said. Yeah, but there's something else. She's not just doing this for revenge. She's protecting someone. I stared at him. Who? I don't know yet. But when I find out, I need you to promise you won't do anything until we're sure. I didn't answer. By dawn, everything was in motion. Raina had spoofed the Caldwell security system to register a false alarm on the outer perimeter, forcing their guards to focus on the north side of the property while we slipped in from the south. Marcus had set up avalanche charges on the road leading up to the estate. Just enough to trap them, not kill them. The storm rolled in right on schedule. Whiteout conditions. Zero visibility. We moved under cover of snow, our footprints buried almost as fast as we made them. The plan was to breach through the maintenance tunnel, reach the cellar, and lock down the estate from the inside. Everything was running perfectly until Raina's radio went silent. Raina, come in, Marcus hissed. Static. Then her voice, change of plan. Don't come through the tunnel. They know. What? I demanded. But before she could answer, the sound of gunfire cracked through the storm, short, precise bursts echoing from somewhere near the lodge. Marcus grabbed my arm. That was inside. And then Raina's voice again, broken and panicked. Daniel, don't trust. The line went dead. For a few seconds, all I heard was the storm. A low, endless roar swallowing everything. Then Marcus cursed under his breath. We're blown. We need to move now. We scrambled through the tunnel entrance anyway, headlamps slicing the dark. The air inside smelled of diesel and cold stone. My pulse was pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. Halfway down, the static on our radios flickered to life again. A man's voice this time. Smooth, amused. Daniel Hayes, you've come a long way just to die in my snow. I froze. Warren Caldwell, I said quietly. You thought you could crawl back into my house and make me confess? You pathetic little mechanic. You don't even understand the game you're playing. Where's Raina? I shouted. He laughed. You mean my employee? She's right here. Tell him hello, Raina. Then her voice, soft, ragged. Dan, I'm sorry. The line went dead. Marcus swore again. They've got her. I felt everything inside me go still. Not fear, clarity. Then they're not getting out of this alive. We reached the end of the tunnel. The old service hatch opened into the lodge's wine cellar. Marcus used a crowbar, and the door gave way with a metallic shriek. We slipped inside. The generator hum was gone. The lights flickered, running on emergency power. We crept up the narrow stairs into the main floor. The place was a mausoleum, expensive art, dead silence, snow battering the windows. Then I saw it. A trail of footprints leading toward the great room. Raina was kneeling by the fireplace, wrists zip-tied, blood on her temple. Across from her stood Warren Caldwell, immaculate as ever, gray hair slicked back. Wearing an ironed cashmere coat like this was a business meeting, not a hostage standoff. Derek stood beside him, holding a rifle. Erin was there too. She looked thinner, haunted. But when she saw me, she smiled like I was a ghost she'd been expecting. Daniel, she said softly, you shouldn't have come. Where's my daughter? I asked, though I already knew. Erin tilted her head. You still don't get it, do you? Warren gestured for Derek to move closer. Gun trained on Marcus. You think we wanted to kill that little girl? We didn't. We needed a problem solved. Raina made that happen. My gaze snapped to her. What the hell is he talking about? Raina's eyes filled with tears. It wasn't supposed to be her. What? She wasn't the target, Dan. Erin stepped forward. It was you. The words hit me like a hammer. Warren chuckled. We planned to make your death look like a car accident. Raina here was supposed to sabotage your vehicle's guidance system. Tidy little explosion, tragic loss. But she grew a conscience at the last second and ran. You remember your crash? The one that crippled you for weeks? That wasn't a random truck, Daniel. That was Derek. I turned to him, and he grinned. No remorse, just cruelty. You missed your mark, I said through clenched teeth. He shrugged. Didn't matter. You were half dead anyway. Raina shook her head, crying now. I didn't know they'd go after Maya. I swear to God. I thought if I disappeared, they'd drop it. I thought, save it, I snapped. But the worst wasn't over. Erin crossed her arms, eyes cold. You really think I didn't know? You think I didn't help plan it? The prenup was airtight. If you died, I got nothing. But if Maya died, I got sympathy, donations, control of her trust fund, and my father's full backing again. Everyone wins. Marcus lunged forward, but Derek struck him across the face with the rifle, sending him crashing into the wall. You're monsters, I said, my voice shaking. Warren smiled faintly. No, Daniel. We're survivors. That's what separates us from people like you. He turned toward Raina. Now, be a good girl and finish what you started. Kill him. She didn't move. Raina, he said, sharper now. Do it, or I'll let your brother handle it. At the mention of her brother, I saw something shift in her eyes. A flicker of resolve. She whispered, I'm sorry, Adrian. Then she moved faster than I expected. She spun, grabbed Derek's rifle, and fired. One shot, straight into Warren's chest. He dropped instantly. Erin screamed. Derek reached for his sidearm, but Marcus, bleeding from his nose, tackled him to the ground. The gun skidded across the marble floor. I lunged for Erin, slamming her against the wall. Her perfect composure shattered into animal panic. You killed her, I yelled. You left her to die. She clawed at me, sobbing. You think you were the good parent? You think she didn't cry every night because of you? You were weak, and she knew it. Then the room filled with another voice. Deep, familiar. Enough. I turned. Standing in the doorway was Tyler Vaughn, Raina's supposedly dead brother. Gun raised, face half hidden by the stormlight. Get away from my sister, he said. Raina froze. Adrian, please. He looked at her like she was a stranger. You should have stayed gone. And before anyone could move, he fired. The gunshot split the air like a thunderclap. Raina staggered backward, clutching her shoulder, blood blooming through her coat. Marcus dove behind a cabinet, grabbing the fallen rifle. Aaron screamed again, half in shock, half in rage. But I couldn't move, because the man in front of me, the one with my daughter's blood somewhere on his hands, was supposed to be dead. Tyler Vaughn, Adrian Keller, whatever he was now. He lowered the gun slightly, eyes locked on Raina. You ruined everything, he said, voice shaking with fury. You were supposed to leave. Dad promised if you stayed out, they wouldn't touch you. Dad, I repeated, the word tasting like rust. Warren. He didn't even look at me. Raina, trembling, stepped forward. Adrian, listen to me. He lied. Warren killed you, killed the man you were, and rebuilt you into his dog. You think he saved you, but he owned you. Adrian's jaw clenched. His gun didn't waver. You think I don't know what he did? You think I don't remember waking up in that clinic with half my face missing? Hearing him tell the doctors to make me useful? I remember everything. Erin was shaking now, standing beside her father's lifeless body. Adrian, put the gun down. You'll ruin everything he built. He laughed, short and ugly. He built me, Erin. Every scar, every nerve, every nightmare. He said I owed him for saving my life after that accident. But it wasn't an accident, was it? She didn't answer. He told me Raina leaked company secrets, said she sold us out, said if I loved my family, I'd make it right. So I did his dirty work. For years I hunted anyone who threatened him. Activists, journalists, contractors. And when your little family trip came up, he told me one more job, one more cleanup. I stepped closer. You left my daughter in the snow. Adrian's eyes met mine. For a second, something flickered there. Guilt, maybe, but it passed. I didn't know who she was. Warren said it was an anonymous witness. Someone who took pictures at the ridge. He told me she wasn't a kid. He said she was an intern from the agency. He said, his voice broke. He said she was 25. The world seemed to tilt. Erin's face went white. Tell him the rest, Raina whispered, clutching her bleeding arm. Tell him what you found out afterward. Adrian looked like he couldn't breathe. His voice dropped to a whisper. She called out for you, Daniel. Over and over. I was there when the storm got bad. She had that stuffed bear in her coat. She couldn't even walk. When I realized, I tried to carry her back. But the ice. He stopped, swallowing hard. She fell, I said. He nodded, eyes wet now. I tried to grab her. I swear I did. But Warren was watching on the drone feed. He told me to walk away or he'd make sure Raina disappeared too. So I walked. Every word landed like a blade. Raina whispered. He made you choose between me and her. Adrian's gun hand trembled. He said if I didn't finish the job, he'd have you buried in the same snow. Marcus stepped out from cover, rifle steady on Adrian. So you traded one innocent for another. Adrian didn't flinch. I've been dead for a long time, soldier. You can't trade when you've got nothing left. The room fell silent except for the wind screaming against the windows. Warren's body lay sprawled near the fire, his blood turning dark on the wood floor. Erin knelt beside him, shaking uncontrollably, not from grief but from fear. I walked closer to her. Why? I said, my voice low. Why my daughter? Why couldn't you just leave? She raised her head. Mascara streaked down her face. Because he was right, she whispered. You were weak. You were never supposed to marry into this family. Dad always said I needed someone who could play the game. You wanted a home. He wanted leverage. Maya was an accident that tied me to you. I thought I could live with it, but every time I looked at her, I saw you. Ordinary. Small. And I hated her for it. There it was. The truth, sharp and plain. Not greed. Not corruption. Just cold, human cruelty. She was 8 years old. I said. Erin wiped her face. She was a reminder, and reminders make people weak. Raina spoke from the floor, voice hoarse. That's the real reason, Daniel. It was never about money or property. Warren's empire was built on control, and Erin learned that control meant power. She didn't just want her father's approval. She wanted to become him. Erin looked up, eyes hollow. I didn't want to become him, she whispered. I wanted to survive him. No, I said. You chose to become him. For a long moment, no one moved. The storm outside was easing now, but inside, it felt like the air itself was breaking. Then Adrian holstered his weapon and walked toward the window, staring out into the white. He told me I was saving family, he said quietly. But family doesn't make you kill children. Raina looked at him, tears mixing with blood. Then prove it. He turned, eyes meeting mine. How? I stepped closer, until we were inches apart. You help me finish this. He nodded slowly. Then we burn it all. Behind us, Erin whispered. You'll never get away with it. I looked down at her, the firelight flickering against her face. I already did. We thought the hardest part would be getting them to admit it. We were wrong. The hardest part was keeping myself from breaking before I finished. After the shooting, after Warren dropped like a marionette with his strings cut, everything accelerated into a violent, ugly clarity. Derek was subdued by Marcus. Erin fell apart in a way that made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. A woman who'd spent her life choreographing facades dissolved into nothing with mascara tracks and a voice that begged for anything that resembled mercy. Raina collapsed to the floor and vomited. Adrian stood at the window, like a man who'd been brought back to look at his own ruin. We had walked into their world with knives, and they'd finally been shown the mirror. Raina, bleeding through her sleeve, handed me a little thing I hadn't even remembered. Maya's stuffed bear. Marcus had snatched it from the snow the night they found her. It was shabby, one ear half mended, the stitches clumsy. But there was a seam. Raina had opened herself. Inside, pressed into the lining, was a small activator and a cheap recorder. A stupid toy recorder. A ridiculous, tender thing stolen into a tomb. You put that there? I asked her stupidly. She nodded. I gave it to her the day she learned to whistle. I never meant. Her voice broke. I never meant it to be a weapon. But she used it. She was always recording songs she made up. After I saw the file names on the server, I went looking. One of the tracks had background voices. Erin's voice. Derek's. Planning. You should listen. I pressed play. The tiny speaker hissed, but the voices were there. Casual, bored. The way evil sounds in ordinary conversation. We'll take the ridge run at dusk. He won't be able to come after us. If anyone asks, we say she wandered. The rest dissolved into static and a child's small laugh. I felt my stomach drop in a way my injury never could. That recording was the first twist that gutted the rest of their defenses. It was simple evidence, but it was undeniable. Erin's inflection when she said, "We'll take the ridge." The boredom. The same bored cruelty I'd seen 1,000 times in the Caldwell's boardroom pictures. The tape made the word intent a tangible thing. Raina had already planted something else. She told me, quietly, that she'd been in contact with the Department of Justice for weeks. Not to hand them evidence, but to give them the exact moment it would collapse. She'd wired the wine cellar. She'd looped a live feed into an encrypted channel she trusted only to one person. A reporter at a national investigative outlet who had a reputation for not being bought. She used the reporter because she'd learned one immutable law of monsters like Warren Caldwell. They feared reputations more than prison. We didn't need to coerce them into a confession by torturing them physically. The trap we set was psychological. The blizzard had sealed them like flies in amber. Without power, without rescue. With the world watching a live stream that Raina had already fed to dozens of federal contacts. The Caldwell's arrogance shrank like paper near a candle. Adrian, who had been at Warren's side for years like a shadow that did the dirty work, stepped forward. Not to help them, but to finish the thing they'd started. He didn't kill them for money or loyalty. He'd finally had enough of being a tool. When Warren's trembling plea for help sounded hollow, Adrian turned the camera on them himself. What unfolded in that great room over the next 3 hours is not something I can unpack without cutting open the scar that still keeps me upright. They confessed because they believed confessing might be their one bargaining chip. Derek admitted to tampering with my car months earlier. Erin admitted to weighing her life against my daughter's and choosing the option that kept her comfortable. Warren, fiddle-faced and loud, tried to bargain through the camera. Money, donations, testimony. Anything to save his face and his fortune. The reporter did not blink. Federal agents, who had been in contact for days, were lined up and ready to move the moment Raina gave them the go-ahead. The second twist was uglier. Marcus, my friend from the army, was not just a friend. He'd been on a Caldwell ledger I found after the first sweep, not as a paid asset, but as a man who'd been blacklisted by Warren years ago when he refused to sell a parcel. Marcus had his own debts to settle. He'd never told me everything. He was a man who knew how to push hard where it hurt. When the time came, he used that ledger entry, receipts of favors Warren had paid for, to ensure the prosecutors didn't look away. He'd been angrier than I'd ever seen him, and his anger was a force. They arrested them in shifts. Warren went first, cuffed with the same bored dignity he'd worn to weddings. Derek and Erin followed. The cameras rolled. The live stream picked up every tremor in their faces. The internet did what the internet does best. It didn't let them hide. Headlines called it the Caldwell Fall. People who'd spoken for them suddenly found their voices. I didn't kill anyone. We forced a justice that had refused us. We made them face the world they'd used like a barn to hide their rot. They had to answer for toxic dumps and for the nights they chose money over a child. It was messy. It was not a perfect victory. It was real. After the arrests, there was trial theater, lawyers, plea deals, the slow grind of a system that loves to chew and spit. But the evidence was public now. The tape from the bear, the emails Raina had exfiltrated, Adrian's camera confession. The DA could no longer look away. Convictions came. Prison sentences came. They were less than I wanted, and they were more than I thought I'd ever see. But they were true. What I did next felt less like triumph and more like settling ash. I set up a scholarship in Maya's name at her elementary school, anonymous donations sent on the 10th of every month. Not to buy my peace because no money can buy that, but to make sure some other kid got a chance to draw sons big enough to fit all 3 stick figures on the fridge. Marcus disappeared back to his life with fewer ghosts. Raina went into witness protection, and Adrian wrote letters. In the beginning they were rage and denial. Later they became apology, then simply things I read to remember what a man can become when he looks at himself honestly. I didn't go to prison and I didn't run. I left, not because I was hiding, but because a quiet life felt like the only religion left to me. I changed my name at the registrar, got a job at a small engineering firm far from the Rockies, and on March 10th every year, I send a check to the scholarship with no return address. People ask if revenge fixed anything. It didn't fix the white cold of the river or the sound of my daughter's voice in a voicemail. It didn't bring her back. But the confession made a thing public that had been allowed to live in the dark. It took their trophy room of a life and made it evidence. On the first anniversary of the arrests, I drove up the ridge where she died. I had no ceremony planned. I brought the bear, and I left it on a stump where the snow had started to melt. I whispered, "We did what we could." Then I walked away. Justice didn't warm the snow. It didn't stitch the hole in my chest. But it changed a ledger, and sometimes that's all a ruined father can ask of the world. I still tell myself, sometimes, as I fold my hands around a cup of coffee in a small town that will never be in the papers. She deserved better than a world that chose convenience over conscience. The rest, the quiet giving back, the small debts paid forward, is how I keep paying for my failure to save her. And if anyone asks whether I'd do it all again, I look at the scar on my ribs and smile without heat. Yes, I say. But next time, I'll try to be faster.